Watch the short training by Dr. Cox on how to handle each of the animals in the museum's live animal collection. Pay particular attention to how he holds the animals, as well as the reasons why certain holding techniques are important to your safety, the animal's safety, and the patron's safety. He also addresses safety guidelines such as hand washing. Be sure to remember these points in order to avoid sickness or injury to you, the animals, or our patrons.
First of all, there are some considerations. Secondly, there are tools. And third, there are techniques. And we'll talk about all of those things. First considerations have to do with safety. In terms of safety, what are we concerned about? What's their first concern? We're concerned about our own safety. I want you to think about your own safety. Now, some of these animals can be dangerous. Even the small ones, even the little fellows that you're accustomed to handling. And so care of your own self is of paramount importance. Second concern, for the animal. You need to be careful about the animal and care for the animal. You need to be concerned about cleanliness in terms of safety. We do know that reptiles can carry salmonella organisms that can be passed on to humans, and so you need to be concerned about whether or not they're going to pass on a salmonella condition. It's sometimes good to wear a pair of gloves. There are even leather gloves might even be better to wear under certain circumstances. I have a problem with gloves personally. I don't like them. First of all, I don't think the sensations in my fingers are transmitted through the gloves very well. And so I can't tell what's happening with the animal through my fingers. And that's a problem. So gloves are a problem, but there are circumstances under which gloves are recommended because of safety issues. The biggest concern with she is claws, and she can scratch and give you a wicked scratch. He's got scars to prove it. We can clip toenails and dull those claws so they're not so sharp, but that's a frustration for the animal because this animal survives on his sharp claws, on climbing and on grabbing and on holding prey. There are ways to handle it to minimize the scratching. You won't ever eliminate it entirely, but you can handle the animal in such a way that you will eliminate a lot of the danger. What's the danger with snakes? Biting mostly, but some large snakes, of course, strangulation or even pushing your shoulder out of joint or your arm out of joint. They're able to do some of that. But normally, they're not interested in squeezing you. A big snake normally has no interest in you in terms of squeezing you. He's only interested in being safe. And if you understand that, then you can handle the animal, support it in such a way that it's not feeling threatened, and then it's not likely to really wrap around and squeeze you and cause you trouble. He doesn't normally see a person as food. You don't smell right, you don't look right, and you don't act right. And so they don't go after you for food. That's not entirely true. There are stories in the wild of large snakes swallowing people. But normally that's not the case. That's an abnormal situation. So with a large snake, if you support it properly, handle it properly, it's not going to squeeze you. It'll just drape around you or some such thing. And that's about all you need to worry about. If it worries about falling or its safety in some way or another, then it's going to hold on tight. But in most cases, you have enough leverage in your arms and in your muscles that you can unwind a snake from around your body, no matter how big it is, in most cases. Come on. That's it. Come on. Come on. You notice, first of all, gentleness is appreciated by most of these animals, and she is a pleasant animal. This lizard is a varanid lizard of the family Varanidae. It is the group of lizards that are the largest lizards in the world. The Komodo dragon is also a Varanidae. Some of them are robust lizards, but most of them have body shapes much like shishi. They're extremely mobile, they're fast, and they're aggressive. They have long tails, and in most cases, if you support them with their girdles, then they're not going to go anywhere, and if they struggle, you can control them. You'll notice that I'm just holding them by their girdles, the pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle, and that's where their support points are. And if you support them there, they're not worried about falling. This variety of lizard, the varanids, are always going to want to struggle. They don't like to be held. If you can stop them from struggling and they settle down, then you don't have to squeeze or hold them. You can just simply let them sit on your hands, and they will be fairly calm. Usually, she will fight you until she gets tired. And then she'll rest for a moment, as she's doing now, and then she'll start to fight again. With a smaller lizard, the dangers are much less. And most of the smaller lizards are going to be less aggressive and less of a problem. This one, of course, is a sweetheart, and causes nobody any trouble. And I like to just set it on my hand, and it just sits there mostly. This animal has got claws, but so what? The thing you do have to do is support the animal so that it doesn't feel threatened. If I were to just grab it like this, then it feels threatened, and although this one will just hang there, most of them will start to thrash about and could hurt themselves. So on an animal like this, how do I know that I'm being protected from salmonella, for example? What would I do to protect myself from salmonella?
Wash your hands.
Wash my hands after I handle the animal, of course. Wear gloves would do it. If the animal is wallowing in its feces in the cage, if it tips over its water and wallows in water for days, those are danger signs. Those are the kinds of things that will promote salmonella. If you keep the animal clean, you're probably not going to have a salmonella problem. Okay, snakes. Of course, this is a boa constrictor. I always liked his little mustache. How do you hold them? Well, again, I just pretend like my arm is a tree limb and let him hold on. He doesn't want to fall, so he'll just hold on. How can I control his head so that he won't bite me? The technique is about the same as holding the girdle on the shishi. You get the head between your thumb and finger, right behind the jaws. Put a index finger on the top of the head, and then use these fingers around the neck. That will help control the head. Now I'm using a snake stick on this animal. This is a technique you would use if you have a dangerous snake, a venomous snake, or something, and you can control where he goes with a snake stick. And in fact, if I needed to pick up a venomous snake with my hands, I would start with a snake stick, and I would pin its head to the floor or to the ground like that. So the snake stick is good for pinning the animal down or for picking him up. And in most cases, you get him on the hook and he won't crawl off of it in most cases because he doesn't want to fall. I want you to know that I have seen an animal die simply by taking it out of a warm building into cold weather in the wintertime. And it only takes about 10 minutes and they're dead. I've seen that happen. So, you know, that's why we put them on hot water bottles when we take them out. We have insulated bags for them so that we can safely move them out of a warm building through the cold weather into another warm building. Any snake can bite you, and you need to know that their teeth are long and they're sharp. They're like needles. And they have a very soft gum-type tissue sheath that covers the teeth. And so you might open their mouth and look in their mouth, and you don't see any teeth. Or if you do, they're just little short nubbins. But when they bite you, that sheath falls away, and you have long needles going in. And they can deliver a fairly wicked bite. You need to also know that the teeth often come out. Their teeth are deciduous, they fall out, and they can be replaced. They can replace them as often as they need to. In terms of handling a turtle, it's not healthy for the turtle to be on its back. Why? That's right. The organs inside will crush the lungs and make it so he can't breathe. So he needs to turn over. And when turtles are fighting with each other, when males are competing, this structure right here on males is elongated, and they use it to tip one another over. That's what they try to do. They try and tip their competitor over. And if they're able to do that, then of course it puts their competitor in danger, but it gives him free reign with the females. Also in tortoises like this one, they have some sacs in the tail region that hold water. And especially in the desert tortoise, these sacs are there as a water reserve. But they use those sometimes when you handle them to try and secure freedom. So you might pick them up and get wet. You think he's peed on you. Well, maybe he did, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he just released the water in the water sac. And yet, in a desert situation, the tortoise is on borrowed time because that's his water reserve. And if he doesn't restore that, he could die because water isn't always available. Controlling these guys is not difficult. If you hold them like this, then the legs will push against your hand. You notice the hind leg, he's able to pull that into his shell and then get it up on my hand and push away. Yeah, if they're a wild tortoise or turtle, they can scratch because the claws are sharp, and so those are dangerous things. And he automatically tries to get on my finger and push it away. See, so controlling them is best from above. Different turtles have different anatomies, and these box turtles, of course, the shell is hinged underneath, and you can press that closed, and you could injure them by pressing too hard. But other turtles are not hinged, and much less likely that you will injure them by pressing on the shell. Shell could be, well, it's bone, of course, and if you want to break the bone, I guess you have to press pretty hard.
All of the museum's live animals are kept in the live animal room. You are not allowed to take anyone into the live animal room without permission from Katie. Each animal has a designated cage which must be kept closed at all times. When removing an animal, be gentle and try not to startle them. Be sure to close the cage after removing them, and if the cage has a lock, be sure to lock it. Violation of this policy can result in job termination. Place the animals into separate insulated bags, transport boxes, or buckets, depending on what is best for the animal. Generally, snakes and lizards go in the insulated bags, and turtles go in the buckets. The transport boxes are useful for the larger animals. When preparing animals for a show outside the museum, be aware of the temperature outside. In the winter, place a hot water bottle in the bag or box with the reptile to help it maintain its body temperature. If it is especially hot outside, you may want to consider filling a bottle with cool water instead. When loading the animals into the car, be sure that they are secure and positioned so that the containers will not tip over if you need to make a sudden stop. Also, be sure that each bag or transport box is securely closed. Some of our animals are escape artists and may cause safety concerns if they escape and begin to roam around the car. Safety pinning the zippers on the bags is effective, and putting weight on the box lids may also be necessary at times. Be aware of which animals you are using and plan accordingly. On the back of the door to the reptile room there is a chart with each animal's name and the days of the week. Always sign out the animals you are using by putting the time and your initials in the appropriate row and column. Live animals may only be used for 2 in-house shows a day or 1 outreach. This approach ensures that the health and well-being of the animals are effectively and responsibly managed. Also, be aware of which animals are on the Do Not Use list. If a snake is shedding or one of the animals has a health concern, they should not be used.